When that young girl heard his violin, she stopped, turned, and showed an expression that didn't just change one life. Through the video she secretly recorded, it exposed a 50-year secret, rewrote world music history, and proved that sometimes the greatest masters sit under bridges while nobody watches. But before that day, Alessandro Moretti was just a crazy old man. Welcome to the Untold Stories. Before we begin this incredible story of talent discovery, lost genius, and the power of music, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe true art never dies, hit that subscribe button, because this story will change how you see music forever. Who was that girl? And why did she burst into tears the moment she heard Alessandro's violin? Because that melody was a composition that no one had played for 30 years. A piece written by her father, supposed to be lost in the secret archives of the Vienna Philharmonic. And even stranger, that old man was playing it from memory, without even reading notes. But that wasn't the real secret. The real secret was who Alessandro truly was. That corner under the Brooklyn Bridge was one of those places the city forgot. Tourists would pass overhead, take photos, but nobody ever came down below. The homeless, people wanting to disappear, and Alessandro Moretti, or at least that's how he introduced himself. 73 years old, snow-white hair, hands trembling but magically steady when he held his violin. He came every morning at 7 a.m. to the same spot, sitting on that concrete block at the foot of the bridge. He'd take out his old, scratched violin, tune it, and begin to play. Most people ignored him. New York had a musician on every corner. This was just one more. But Alessandro was different. The music he played, it wasn't normal street music. Mozart, Vivaldi, Paganini. The most difficult pieces of classical music played entirely from memory, without using sheet music at all. Still, nobody listened. Those who dropped money were quite few. $15 to $20 a day, barely enough for one meal. On rainy days, he'd take shelter under the bridge. On sunny days, he'd move to the edge where foot traffic was heavier. But what Alessandro didn't know was that someone was watching him every morning. Maria Rossi was a 19-year-old student at the Juilliard School of Music, violin major, second year. She liked to wake up early and go jogging before classes, and her route always passed through the Brooklyn Bridge. The first time she heard Alessandro, she had stopped, frozen in place. He was playing Paganini's 24th Caprice at that moment, one of the most difficult pieces in violin literature. Even Maria's professor couldn't play this piece perfectly, but this old man, he played it effortlessly, as if he were breathing. Days passed. Maria would stop at the same spot every morning, listening from a distance. Alessandro's repertoire was incredible, from Bach to Brahms, Mozart to Mendelssohn, like a living classical music library. But one morning, everything changed. Alessandro began playing a melody she didn't recognize at all. It wasn't modern, but it didn't sound familiar from anywhere either. It was so beautiful that Maria felt her eyes welling up. And suddenly, as if struck by lightning, she froze. That melody. She had heard that melody before. But where? She immediately pulled out her phone and started recording secretly. Alessandro didn't notice, continuing to play. For 7 minutes, without stopping, without repeating, flowing as if he had just composed it himself. That evening, Maria called her mother, Dr. Elena Rossi. Elena was a music historian in Milan, and she said something that changed Maria's world. "Maria, where did you hear this melody?" Elena's voice sounded tense over the phone. "From the old musician under the bridge, Mom. Why? Do you recognize it?" A long silence. Then Elena took a deep breath. This is your father's composition. Requiem for the soul. But this is impossible." Maria's heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "This piece was never performed. Your father composed it before he passed away, but he never shared the notes with anyone. Only once at home when you were still a baby. And then what? Then the notes were lost, burned in the fire. Only your father and I knew this piece existed, and he's no longer with us. Maria's hand holding the phone was trembling. But Mom, that man, he's playing it perfectly, as if he's played it 1,000 times. Elena's voice dropped to a whisper. Describe that man to me, every detail. Maria described Alessandro, his age, appearance, hair, that old violin. Elena listened carefully to every word. Maria, she said finally, tomorrow approach that man and ask him something. Ask if he's ever heard the name Alessandro Moretti. Why? Because if I'm right, that man might be the lost legend of the music world, Giuseppe, Alessandro whispered. Giuseppe's daughter. Maria looked in astonishment. Did you know my father? Alessandro slowly sat on the concrete block, as if 10 years had suddenly been added to his age. Did I know him? Piccola Maria. I was your father's closest friend since the Milan Conservatory. Maria's world spun. You. I am Alessandro Moretti, the real Alessandro Moretti. This name sounded familiar to Maria. She had heard it from her music historian mother, but no, this was impossible. But Alessandro Moretti died 30 years ago in Italy in a plane crash. Alessandro gave a bitter smile. Yes, that's what they said. But I'm here. Maria was confused. She pulled out her phone. You need to talk to my mother, now. But Alessandro stopped her with his hand. Not yet, cara mia. First I need to tell you the truth. What happened to your father? What happened to me? And why I've been living under bridges for the last 30 years. Maria lowered her phone. Alessandro took a deep breath and broke 30 years of silence. It was 1993. I was a world-renowned conductor at the time. La Scala, Berlin Philharmonic, New York Philharmonic. I worked with the great orchestras, and your father, he was my closest friend and most talented composer. Alessandro's eyes drifted into the distance. We worked together. I brought his compositions to the world stage. He wrote for me. It was perfect collaboration until that night. What night? The night you were born. Maria's breath caught. Giuseppe composed that lullaby for you, that requiem for the soul. When he first played it at home, I was there too. Elena was there. You were in your crib. And that melody was so beautiful, so perfect that we all cried. Alessandro's voice was trembling now. Giuseppe said, "This is my magnum opus. This is my gift to my daughter." And then he added, "But the world isn't ready for this yet. No one will play this piece, only when Maria grows up, if she chooses the path of music." Then how do you know it? How can you play it? Tears streamed from Alessandro's eyes. Because that night, before Giuseppe passed away, he told me his final request. Giuseppe had cancer. Nobody knew, not even Elena. Only I knew because he was coming from the hospital that night, from his last session. Maria covered her mouth with her hands. He told me, "Alessandro, I know Elena won't be able to bear it when I'm gone, and it will be very hard for Maria to grow up without a father. But I have one request." And that night, right there, he taught me that melody, without notes, just by ear. "If Maria ever becomes a musician," he said, "and if she wants to remember me, play this melody for her. Then she'll understand how much her father loved her." Alessandro paused, wiping his tears. But the story doesn't end there. After Giuseppe passed away, Elena became very bad. She fell into depression. And I tried to give her every kind of support, but what? But Elena blamed me for not telling her about Giuseppe's illness. "If I had known," she said, "we would have spent his last moments better." She was right. But Giuseppe hadn't wanted that. Alessandro's voice broke. Elena was so angry that she asked me to stay away. "Never see me or Maria again," she said. And that day I died too. What do you mean? I left Italy that same night, without telling anyone. I canceled all concerts. I broke all contracts. And here, in New York, I built a new life. But I never returned to the music industry. Maria's eyes filled with tears. What about the plane crash? Fake. To change my identity. I lived here for 30 years, music school janitor, piano repairman, and for the last 10 years, street musician under bridges. But why? Why did you abandon your world-famous conducting career? Alessandro looked at Maria. That look carried the weight of 30 years. Because music is meaningless without love, and I had lost the two people I loved most, Giuseppe to illness, Elena to my own mistakes. Only you remained, but you were forbidden to me too. Then why were you always watching me? I saw you coming every morning, your Juilliard bag, your violinist posture. I realized you were Giuseppe's daughter, but I didn't dare approach. I was keeping my word to Elena, until ... Until what? Until you grew up and became a musician, and it was time for your father's melody to be played. Maria pulled out her phone with trembling hands. She called Elena. She answered on the second ring. Maria, why are you calling so early? Mom, I talked to him, to Alessandro. Silence on the phone. Mom, are you there? Elena's voice dropped to a whisper. Is he really Alessandro? He says so. And he knows Dad's story, every detail. Give him the phone. Maria extended the phone to Alessandro. He took it hesitantly. Elena. A scream came from the other end of the phone, the sound of crying, a mixture of 30 years of longing, anger, regret, and remorse. Alessandro, is it really you? Sono io, cara Elena. Sono io. It's me, dear Elena. It's me. You were dead. Newspaper reports, funeral, everything ... Fake, Elena, all fake. When you asked me to leave your life, I died. Not legally, but in my heart, I died. Elena's crying could be heard through the phone. Alessandro, I made so many mistakes. I was so angry at you for not telling me about Giuseppe's illness, but you were right. I should have told you. No, I wasn't right. I understood later. I understood why Giuseppe hid it. He wanted to protect me. You did too, and I lost my best friend. Alessandro was crying now too. The wall of 30 years was crumbling. Elena, I missed you too, every day. Where do you live? Alessandro looked at Maria. Under the bridge, on the street. What? No, this can't be. You ... I'm not the old Alessandro anymore, Elena. I'm just an old man who remembers melodies. At that moment, Maria took the phone. Mom, come here right now, please, and bring a violin. 2 hours later, Elena arrived. When she saw Alessandro for the first time in 30 years, they both cried. Words were insufficient. They just hugged and forgave 30 years of mistakes. Elena had also brought the violin she was holding. This was Giuseppe's violin, the one Maria never used, only kept at home. This is yours, isn't it? She said, extending it to Alessandro. Alessandro took the violin in his hands as if he had found a long-lost friend. Did Giuseppe leave this to me? Yes, it was written in his will. Give it to Alessandro, it said. But I was too angry. I hid it. Alessandro slowly tuned the violin. Then he looked at Maria. Now I can play your father's real gift for you. But this time let's play it together. Maria took out her own violin. Elena sat and watched, and at that moment, under the Brooklyn Bridge, after 30 years, Giuseppe's Requiem for the Soul was played for the first time on 2 violins, father and daughter's duet, past and future, lost and found. When the music ended, all 3 were crying, and people passing overhead on the bridge had stopped looking down. Some had started recording videos. Alessandro, Elena said, enough now. Come home. Stay with us. Alessandro smiled. Will you let me keep this violin? I want to give one last concert. What concert? At Juilliard, in front of Maria's teachers. I'll play Giuseppe's compositions. Let the world remember him. Maria's eyes lit up. If my professor finds out, he'll go crazy. You're Alessandro Moretti, a living legend. Alessandro put his violin in its case. "No, cara mia, I'm just your father's friend, and now yours too." 3 months later, a concert was held at Juilliard's David Geffen Hall, called Memorial Concert for Giuseppe Rossi. Alessandro Moretti, now using his real name, took the stage, for the first time in 30 years. Maria was also on stage. They played Giuseppe's compositions together. Elena sat in the front row, tears streaming. The applause after the concert lasted 10 minutes. But for Alessandro, the real reward was Maria's smile. In the post-concert interview, a journalist asked, "Maestro Moretti, where have you been for 30 years?" Alessandro smiled. "On the street, learning music." "Learning on the street?" "Yes, learning to make music without pomp, learning to play only for the heart, not for money, not for fame, just for love." That night, Alessandro stayed at Elena's, in the old house, in the house with Giuseppe's photographs, and he said to Maria, "Your father knew you would become a great musician, but I also know this. You won't just become a great musician, you'll bring music to people on the street, to people under bridges." Maria smiled. "How can you know that?" "Because you found me. In 30 years, no one searched, but you found me. This isn't coincidence. This is the power of music." Alessandro fell into a deep sleep that night, peaceful for the first time in 30 years, because now he knew that Giuseppe's melodies would continue to live, in Maria, in Elena, and perhaps in everyone who listened to them. And the next morning, Maria found him under the Brooklyn Bridge. But this time Alessandro wasn't there. Maria was there, with her violin, playing Giuseppe's music for people on the street, because now she was carrying on the legacy of her father and Alessandro. And music belonged to the street. It belonged to everyone. Alessandro Moretti still lives, not under bridges anymore, but music lives everywhere, in every heart, in every moment. So what about you? When you see a street musician, do you stop? Do you listen? Or do you just pass by? Tell us in the comments, have you ever discovered surprising talent in a street musician? And if this story reminded you of the power of music, don't forget to subscribe. Because sometimes the most beautiful melodies come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes the greatest masters sit under bridges, and sometimes just listening is enough. Everyone has a melody. Everyone deserves to be heard. Everyone's story matters. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.